The story of The Great Gatsby, written by F.C. Scott Fitzgerald, begins with a quiet reflection. In his younger and more vulnerable years, the narrator, Nick Carraway, received a piece of advice from his father, advice he never forgot. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he was told, remember that not everyone has had the same advantages you had. Because of this, Nick tries to reserve judgment. That habit opens him to many strange people, but it also leaves him the weary listener to more than a few bores. After fighting in World War I, Nick returns home restless. The Midwest, once the warm center of the world, suddenly feels like the edge of it. He wants something more. So in the summer of 1922, he moves east to New York to learn the bond business. And that decision leads him into one of the most dazzling and tragic stories ever told. Nick rents a small, weather-beaten bungalow in West Egg, a strange and extravagant community on Long Island. His modest house sits squeezed between two enormous mansions. One of them belongs to a mysterious millionaire, a man named Jay Gatsby. Across the bay lies East Egg, where old money lives with quiet confidence and effortless wealth. It is there that Nick's cousin, Daisy Buchanan, resides with her immensely rich husband, Tom Buchanan. Tom is physically powerful, arrogant, and used to getting what he wants. Once a celebrated football star at Yale, he carries himself with the restless dominance of a man who believes the world belongs to him. Nick visits them one warm evening at their elegant Georgian mansion. Inside, he meets Daisy's friend, the professional golfer, Jordan Baker. The atmosphere is charming on the surface. Breezes drift through the open rooms, laughter fills the air, and Daisy speaks in a voice so enchanting it seems to promise something exciting just around the corner. But beneath the elegance, something darker lurks. During dinner, Tom launches into a disturbing rant about civilization collapsing, quoting racist theories about the decline of the white race. Then the phone rings. Tom's mistress is calling. Jordan quietly reveals the truth. Tom has a woman in New York. The illusion of Daisy's perfect life shatters instantly. Later that evening, Daisy confesses something heartbreaking. When her daughter was born, she hoped the child would grow up to be a fool, because in this brutal world, Daisy believes, that is the best thing a girl can be, a beautiful little fool. Halfway between West Egg and New York lies a desolate wasteland, the Valley of Ashes. Here, gray dust covers everything. Ashes pile up like hills. Ash-colored men shovel endlessly through the industrial waste. And looming about it all are the gigantic, faded eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, painted on an old billboard. Their enormous spectacles stare down endlessly at the wasteland, watching, judging, or perhaps seeing nothing at all. It is here that Tom forces Nick to meet his mistress. Her name is Myrtle Wilson. She's loud, energetic, and desperate to escape her bleak life with her husband, George Wilson, who runs a failing garage. Tom takes Myrtle to a small apartment in New York. There, a drunken party begins. The room fills with gossip, alcohol, and careless laughter. Myrtle mocks her husband. She drinks too much, and then she begins repeating Daisy's name again and again. Suddenly, Tom snaps. With a swift, brutal motion, he strikes Myrtle across the face. Her nose breaks instantly. Blood fills the room. The party ends in chaos. But the wildest parties of all happen somewhere else, at Gatsby's mansion. Every weekend, his estate explodes with music, laughter, and light. Hundreds of guests arrive without invitations. Champagne flows endlessly. Orchestras play late into the night. Girls laugh too loudly. Rumors spread even faster than the alcohol. Some say Gatsby killed a man. Others whisper he was a German spy during the war. No one really knows who he is.
And strangely enough, Gatsby rarely joins the party himself. One night, Nick finally meets him. Gatsby introduces himself with a smile so warm and confident that it feels almost magical. Yet, something about him is slightly strange. His speech is overly formal, his manners almost too perfect. It's as if he carefully constructed the image of who he wants to be. Later, Gatsby drives Nick into the city in his enormous cream-colored car. During the ride, he reveals pieces of his mysterious past. He claims he comes from a wealthy family. He says he studied at Oxford. He even shows Nick a medal from Montenegro for bravery in the war. The stories sound unbelievable, yet the evidence seems real, and Nick's not sure what to believe. Soon, the truth begins to emerge. One afternoon, Jordan Baker reveals Gatsby's secret. 5 years ago, before the war, Gatsby had fallen deeply in love with Daisy. But Daisy was rich and surrounded by wealth. When Gatsby left for the war, Daisy eventually married Tom Buchanan instead. Now Gatsby has returned. Everything he owns, his mansion, his parties, his fortune, exists for one reason: Daisy.
He bought his house simply to live across the bay from her. Every night, Nick notices Gatsby standing alone at the end of his dock, staring across the dark water toward a small green light glowing at the end of Daisy's pier. For Gatsby, that light represents everything he has ever dreamed of. Eventually, Gatsby asks Nick for a favor. He wants him to arrange a meeting with Daisy, a simple tea at Nick's house. Nick agrees. On the day of the meeting, Gatsby is overwhelmed with nervous anticipation. He sends over an entire greenhouse of flowers. He even has a man mowing Nick's lawn in the pouring rain. When Daisy finally arrives, the reunion is painfully awkward. Gatsby nearly collapses with anxiety. The conversation stumbles and falters. But slowly, something changes. The rain stops. Sunlight fills the room. The tension melts away, and the past begins to feel alive again. Gatsby then takes Daisy to see his mansion. Room after room reveals unimaginable luxury. Finally, he throws piles of colorful silk shirts into the air. Daisy begins to cry, not from joy, but from the overwhelming realization of what might have been. Yet Gatsby's glittering life hides a deeper truth. His real name is James Gatz. He was born poor on the shores of Lake Superior. But as a teenager, he reinvented himself. He imagined a new identity, a richer, more extraordinary life. And from that dream, Jay Gatsby was born. For years, he chased that dream relentlessly, until it brought him everything: wealth, power, and Daisy. But dreams built on illusions cannot last forever. One sweltering summer afternoon, everything begins to collapse. Tom realizes the truth. Daisy and Gatsby are in love. Furious, Tom confronts Gatsby in a suite at the Plaza Hotel. The argument grows explosive. Desperately, Gatsby demands Daisy tell Tom she never loved him. But Daisy cannot do it. She admits something devastating. She loved Tom once, and she loves Gatsby too.
That single confession shatters Gatsby's dream. Tom, confident in his victory, sends Daisy home with Gatsby in Gatsby's yellow car. As they drive back toward Long Island, tragedy strikes. Back in the Valley of Ashes, Myrtle Wilson runs into the road.
The car hits Myrtle violently. She dies instantly, but the car does not stop. Later that night, Gatsby reveals the truth. Daisy was driving, but Gatsby is willing to take the blame. Inside the house, Daisy and Tom sit together quietly, planning their escape. The next day, Gatsby waits beside his swimming pool, still hoping Daisy will call, still believing in the dream. But George Wilson has discovered the truth. Consumed by grief and rage, he tracks Gatsby down. At the edge of the pool, he fires. Gatsby dies instantly. Moments later, Wilson turns the gun on himself. In death, the illusion surrounding Gatsby finally disappears. The crowds who filled his parties vanish. Almost no one attends his funeral. Daisy never comes. Neither does Tom. They simply disappear, leaving no address, no message, not even a flower. Disillusioned, Nick prepares to leave New York. Before departing, he returns to Gatsby's empty beach one last time. There, he reflects on the dream that defined Gatsby's life. Long ago, when the first explorers arrived in America, they must have seen the continent as something miraculous. For Gatsby, that same hope existed in the green light across the water, a dream always just out of reach. And perhaps that dream is not unique to Gatsby. And so we continue forward, struggling, dreaming, believing, like boats against the current, carried endlessly back into the past.